Welcome to the Sleep to Dream Analytics Explainer video, where better sleep starts with better understanding.
Let's talk about one of the most unsettling, but also one of the most universal human experiences. We're going to try and answer a question that seems simple, but has a surprisingly complex answer. What is the point of a nightmare?
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. That heart-pounding terror, you're desperately trying to run, but your legs feel like they're stuck in mud. You're hiding, or you're falling, and then boom, you wake up, totally drenched in sweat, heart absolutely racing.
I mean, it really feels like a bug in our system, doesn't it? Like our own mind is playing some kind of cruel trick on us. But what if it isn't? To really figure that out, we have to look at this huge debate that's happening in sleep science right now.
So on one side, you have the view that nightmares are just a symptom, a glitch in the matrix, basically. But on the other side, there's this growing body of research that suggests they might actually be a feature, not a bug. Let's start by looking at the evidence for them being a problem.
For a long time, the main view has been that nightmares are just a sign that something deeper is wrong. And we're not just talking about the occasional bad dream here. For some people, nightmares are a recognized clinical issue with some really serious consequences.
And this isn't just about a bad feeling, it's an official diagnosis. The DSM-5, which is basically the definitive guide for mental health professionals, has these really clear criteria for something it calls nightmare disorder. It involves having these repeated, intensely bad dreams that actually cause significant distress or major problems in your daily life.
And there's some pretty strong evidence to back this up. Frequent nightmares often go hand in hand with other serious conditions like PTSD, anxiety, and depression. They're even linked to suicidal thoughts, and that's true even when you account for other mental health issues. That really points to nightmares being a serious symptom of distress.
And get this, up to 85% of all nightmares are dominated by one single emotion: fear. That is a huge link, and it reinforces the idea that nightmares are tightly connected to fear-based conditions like phobias or anxiety. It's a really compelling case for nightmares being a system failure. But, it's not the whole story.
So let's flip this around. If nightmares are just a disorder, then why are they so incredibly common? The fact that almost everyone has them suggests there might be something more going on here.
First, think about this. While nightmares can be a severe clinical issue, less than 7% of the population actually has a diagnosable nightmare disorder. That's a surprisingly small number. Especially when you compare it to this, a full 85% of adults report having at least one nightmare every single year. When something is that common, it really makes you wonder if it can only be a pathology. It suggests that for most of us, an occasional nightmare might be a normal, maybe even a healthy part of how our brains work.
It kind of helps to think of it as a spectrum. On one end, you have bad dreams. Yeah, they're unpleasant, but they don't usually wake you up, and they happen way more often. On the other end, you have the full-blown nightmare. This suggests that nightmares aren't some freak occurrence, but more like the extreme end of a totally normal process of dealing with negative emotions while we sleep.
Okay, so if they aren't just a bug, what is their feature? This is where we get into some absolutely fascinating theories about what your brain might actually be trying to accomplish with these terrifying little movies it creates. Now, to understand these theories, let's just quickly map out the journey of a typical nightmare. It usually starts as just a normal dream, then some kind of threat starts to build until it crosses this distress threshold, which leads to you waking up, and then finally there's your reaction after you're awake. The different theories all pinpoint the function at different stages of this process.
First up is the threat simulation theory. This one is a very evolutionary take. It basically proposes that dreaming is like a flight simulator for your survival instincts. By running through these threatening scenarios at night, being chased, attacked, falling, your brain gets to practice its response skills without any of the real-world danger. But this theory has some problems. For one, dream threats are often just bizarre. I mean, how does being chased by a giant angry teacup actually prepare you for anything in real life? Plus, we often fail miserably in our dreams. And maybe most importantly, for people with PTSD, reliving trauma isn't helpful practice, it's just re-traumatizing.
So if it's not about practicing for threats, what else could it be? Well, another major theory is called fear extinction. The idea here is that during REM sleep, our brain is trying to process fearful memories by literally separating the memory itself from the intense emotion that's attached to it. So in this view, a nightmare is actually what happens when that process fails or gets interrupted.
This is the core of what's sometimes called the sleep to forget idea.
You're not forgetting the memory, you're forgetting the fear. Your brain is trying to save the data of what happened, but it wants to reduce the emotional file size so that memory doesn't just overwhelm you every time you think of it.
And this gets even more interesting. There's this phenomenon called desomatization. Basically, when researchers watch people having nightmares in sleep labs, they found that in a surprising 60% of cases, the physical panic, the racing heart, the rapid breathing, it was just missing. The theory is that the brain is intentionally separating the scary visuals from the physical panic, almost like a form of built-in exposure therapy to help us handle anxiety better.
Okay, a third big idea is the image contextualization theory. This one suggests that dreaming is a kind of emotional translation. It takes a powerful but kind of abstract feeling you had during your day, like being totally overwhelmed at work, and it gives it this powerful, concrete metaphor, like a giant tidal wave coming at you. By creating a powerful image for the feeling, in the safe space of a dream, it might actually help us process and understand it.
So we have these two really powerful opposing views, symptom versus function. So where does that leave us? Well, as with most things in biology, the answer likely isn't black and white.
Ultimately, it's not really an either-or question. The brain's process for creating these nightmares might be inherently useful. It could be helping us regulate emotion, practice for threats, or process fear. But like any system, it could be pushed too far. What's helpful in small doses can become really harmful when it gets stuck on a loop.
So here's the most practical takeaway from all of this. The occasional nightmare, while yeah, it's really unpleasant, it's probably just a sign of your brain doing its complex, nightly job of managing your emotions. It's only when they become frequent, severe, and start disrupting your life that they cross the line from a possible feature to a definite bug that really needs attention. And that leaves us with a final thought. The next time you wake up, heart pounding from some terrifying dream, just take a moment. And instead of seeing it purely as a malfunction, maybe consider that your brain was just hard at work, running its nightly maintenance, and just trying to help.
Thank you for watching the Sleep to Dream Analytics Explainer video. We hope you sleep well and dream easy.